Welcome to the Downtown, brought to you by Arlington Citizen Media. I am Daryl Smith Jr., and across the internet from me is...
I am Rody John, and across the interwebs from me is...
Amy!
In today's show, we talk to hometown author Shaun Hamill about his book, A Cosmology of Monsters, his time at UTA, and how growing up in Arlington shaped the book.
We also have a chat with John from Dr Jekyll Beer Lab about new vision for Dr Jekyll, local breweries, and a love-hate relationships for the bamboo plant.
Man, I get that. I love it.
Yeah.
But I also hate it.
And if anybody remembers John...
I mostly love it.
Hey, spoiler alert, we might get into that.
Okay, don't. I won't spoil it for anyone.
And then if you remember John from our Frio Trio conversation, we also might be talking about clowns in the ceiling.
Oh wow, that made a comeback.
Did that make a comeback?
It does. It might not. I don't know.
The teaser. Oh man. Okay.
One of our weirdest episodes we ever.
I loved it.
I could talk to those guys forever.
We should start a podcast just with them.
Yeah.
Right.
It'll just be us like once a month talking about clowns and see.
We just have to spin them in different directions and see how far out they'll go with their crazy stories.
Yeah.
So what have y'all been up to this week? Have you done anything cool?
I was at Cool Keg last week. I also visited Tipsy Oak. I also visited Tipsy Oak today, I think about it. What else
Crazy for the Tipsy Oak.
It's not bad. It's not outside a gift card. So.
Oh my God, it's not bad. It's not a way to talk about it if you've been there 8 times a week.
8 times.
It's good. It's great.
Is that good?
Let's see. What did I do? Not much of anything. Trying to think. Nope, I didn't really do much of anything.
That's okay. It's a global pandemic. You're fine.
Yeah. Trying not to get COVID. That's what
I know. You know what? You're doing a bang up job. We all are. Actually, you got tested, Rody. So you don't have COVID.
I didn't have it, and I don't have it.
How did you get that done? Maybe people.
I did the blood work. So in the blood, they can tell if you have it, and then also if there's any traces of you having it. So.
Did you go to your doctor, or where'd you go?
Yeah, where'd you go?
Yeah, I went to my LabCorp, and they did all the blood work, and they were fantastic.
Cool. Great.
How long was there, like a long wait to do it, or were you able to?
It was just a regular. Because I was getting my physical anyway, so I was getting blood work done.
Oh, gotcha.
So I was like, hey, while you're at it, tag that on.
Put that on there.
Take a couple of extra vials for yourself.
So I didn't really do a whole lot because, like Amy, I'm also trying not to get COVID, because it's back. It never went away, but I did grow some cherry tomatoes, and as I previously said, I traded for some peaches and stuff. Well, I actually talked to Jennifer from the Arlington Foodies, and she was like, hey, I got cantaloupes. I heard your wife wanted some cantaloupes. And so I was like, great, let's do a trade. So I traded. And then I ended up getting I ended up getting some other stuff that weren't able to use for whatever reason that week. So I got like lettuce, and I got like leeks. I've never had a leek before.
Oh yeah.
Plantain. It's really cool, and I'm definitely thinking about joining like the co-op to get the produce and stuff, because it is an interesting way to, especially during a pandemic, to like really try new things and do new things in the kitchen. Like we had plantains for breakfast the other day, and it was like, okay, cool.
Very nice.
Also, I think those cherry tomatoes were sold at the farmers market, so that Arlington Field Lab represent. We're coming up in a big way.
I wonder who ended up with them.
If you did, please let us know. I'd really like to know what you thought about them.
Yeah.
We are here with Shaun Hamill, writer extraordinaire, my best friend, and co-host of another podcast we do together called Team Hurricane Returns. How are you today?
I am good. Thank you for having me on your other podcast, Daryl.
Yeah. I feel when we started this interview, I actually said, it feels like we just did this, because we did just do this a few days ago. So you have written a book called A Cosmology of Monsters. which I love and everyone I know loves. I convinced.
I love it too.
My wife is here in the room for this interview. She loves it too. I've convinced everyone at work that they needed to buy it. I got a couple of sales for you, buddy.
Thank you.
So where did the story come from? Like, what is the genesis, I guess, of Cosmology of Monsters?
Well, it really starts actually on a road trip to New Mexico, way outside of Arlington, Texas. I was on a road trip and I stayed at a youth hostel in Taos, New Mexico called the Abominable Snow Mansion. And I had an idea for a novel while I was there about a family running a business. And I thought, like, at the time, of course, the business would be a youth hostel. But then I could never quite, get that idea off the ground. But I came up with two characters who did end up in the book. Noah, the narrator, and Eunice, his older sister, were there pretty much from the get-go. And then years later, a short film that you and I actually both worked on had its premiere at a haunted house that was out of season. I think it was in like February or March or something. And the director rented out this out of season haunted house, and they let us walk around back there and kind of get a look behind the scenes at what a haunted house was. And that was sort of the genesis. It took a few more years for those two ideas to gel, but eventually it really stuck with me, that tour of that haunted house, seeing like the costumes, the lighting. And of course there were actually employees hiding in there to scare us because they couldn't resist, even though there wasn't supposed to be anybody back there.
Right. And I think you and I went together to this haunted house, and both you and I were like, we're not into this, man. And then I think as soon as the door shut, we were like, crap, we're about to go through a haunted house. And we did. And I'm pretty sure we were like arm in arm the entire time, like, punching at the air, like, get away from me, get away from me.
Pretty much. So it definitely left an impression. And there's even a moment directly from that in the book where the plant reaches out and grabs that happened to us. I forget if it was you or me who got grabbed.
I'm pretty sure it was you, and I almost punched the person that did it, and then I had to refrain, right? Because I'm like, never mind, it's a haunted house, it's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it's fine. Let's just get through this damn thing.
Right.
That's I had forgotten about that, but now that you say that, like, as soon as you started talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's totally in the book.
Yeah, it's 100% in the book. So a few years later, when I was doing my master's degree at the University of Iowa, at the Iowa Writers Workshop, those two ideas, the family running a business and the haunted house thing, just sort of collided. And I was like, oh my God, here's this novel I've been waiting to write for like the last 10 years, and it was finally here. So that's really where it started.
I love that you took all of these elements that had happened, and to be quite fair, like, I was there for some of them, so I guess it's kind of cool also to be like, oh yeah, I was totally there for that. So it's nice to, like, I guess, see like the kind of behind the curtain, like you're the wizard and you're like, hey, here's how it all came together, here's how the sausage is made. The sausage being this book.
I kind of remixed our youth and young adulthood in Arlington, Texas, and turned it into a novel.
So that actually is a good segue to my next question, because there is a fictional town. The setting of this is called Vandergrift. For anyone that knows anything about Arlington, Tom Vandergrift was a very central figure to making Arlington what it is today. And it is very similar to our own city, Arlington. Why did you choose to use that location as your hometown over, any other locale, right? Because you could have done this anywhere, right?
Yeah, well, it was my first, not the first novel I'd written, but it was the first one I felt like probably had a chance of getting published. And I felt like there was already so much I had to learn about for the book, about like how haunted houses work and things like that, because that was all research aside from that one behind the scenes tour you and I took, and that was just looking. That wasn't, that as far as like a town goes, I knew how to write about a town like Arlington. So it felt very I don't want to say safe, but it felt like I could write about it with authority and
Yeah.
not worry about getting it wrong. Whereas, say, if I said it like in, a small village in Poland or whatever.
This is not here. I live here. This is not here. Yeah, I can totally see like why that would, why you choose to go that route.
And I feel like, at least in the North Texas area, and I don't know what it's like in other parts of the country, but the North Texas area, at least when we were growing up, was a very rich area for haunted houses, both, religious and normal. And so I felt like there, I don't know if that, I assume it translates to other parts of the country, but I knew for sure Dallas Fort Worth had it. And I had enough material there that I could spin a realistic feeling story that also had fantastical elements, I guess, out of my memories of Arlington.
Yeah, and I mean, as someone who would consider himself an authority on Arlington, as evidenced by this podcast, you really like nailed like what it felt like to grow up in that time, having grown up with you in this city. But even if I hadn't, we hadn't known each other, like I absolutely would have been like, oh, this is this spot in Arlington. Like, oh, this feels exactly like how it felt in the like mid 90s in Arlington. And so for me, like, it was very fun to like read that and just go, oh yeah, like I know what this feels like. But I think other people will be able to read it as well, and not just people who are, live in Arlington and get that too. But for sure, it's like an extra treat for those of us that grew up during that time frame.
Yeah, and that's actually been one of the real delights of getting to release the book, was getting to talk to, people, both people like you who have known pretty much my whole life, but also people that I don't know that well, but who also grew up in the area, and them telling me like this captured what it felt like, to be in this place at that time, which was a really wonderful vindication. It wasn't, I can't say it was the thing I was most concerned about doing in the book, but it was a wonderful thing to find out that I had managed to pull off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, they clicked and it worked for people.
Yeah.
So just kind of talking about growing up in Arlington, how has growing up here shaped the rest of your writing career? Like, do you think, years from now, you're still going to be drawing from the well of inspiration that is Arlington?
I think so. It's hard to say, right? Because,
Sure.
You don't know, I haven't lived in Arlington in about 6 years now. So, who knows, I'm sure all the places that I've ended up living since, Iowa and Alabama and all that, will end up in my work too. But I think it definitely did have a big shaping effect on me as a writer. I feel like Texas is actually this sort of extraordinary wellspring for a lot of artists. Like, a lot of interesting artists come out of Texas, and I wouldn't say it's like a big secret or anything, but I guess like right. it always seems to surprise people when you bring it up, that so-and-so is from Texas, like Wes Anderson's from Texas,
Right. Or any music, C.B. Ray Vaughan, Buddy Holly's from fucking Texas, the old 97s. There's just, and I wonder if, because even just talking about those, people that we just name dropped, Texas is such a big place. Like,
just
like
geographically.
Yeah, like, so like what Buddy Holly was like digging out in Lubbock is totally different than what's going on in Houston or a small town in southwestern Texas. I think it's just, I don't know. I don't understand why anyone would be like, oh no, creativity doesn't happen in Texas. People drag Texas quite a bit, and sometimes rightfully so, I guess.
But, I feel like I was lucky to, first of all, to have good friends who really encouraged the writing, thing very early on, including you, and many of our mutual friends in our circle. I started out writing screenplays just to make you guys laugh, and that kind
Spring
of.
break.
That's right. That's a deep cut.
Deep cut.
My first screenplay.
Yep. And I loved it. So, back then, I was like, this kid's going places. I don't know why I called you a kid. We're literally the same age.
Yeah, well, you're like 5 months older than me.
Yeah, that's fair. So I felt very senior.
Paternal.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah, so there was that. I was lucky, that the Arlington public school system back then, our high school had really good creative writing teachers. I was lucky that I grew up in a town, because I was sort of a late bloomer, that when I was finally ready to go to a 4-year school, we had UTA right in town, which has this wonderful English department and this like top secret, they're not top secret, but they're this incredibly well kept secret, which is the creative writing minor at UTA, which is hopefully starting to get a little more attention now. Laura Kopchick and her husband Tim Richardson sort of run that program, and Laura really she came out of the University of Michigan MFA program, which is one of like the top programs in the country. So she knew what it took to be like a real writer, and she took me under her wing and took me from just like, I'm a kid who works at a bookstore who'd like to write a book someday, to being like, okay, if you're serious about this, this is what you need to read, this is what you need to do, these are your problems, these are the schools to apply to, so on and so forth. So I was lucky in a lot of ways. I was lucky in my education, I was lucky in my friendships. And I don't know. I also just, I may be biased, but I also felt like, Arlington actually had a surprisingly rich culture of things to do. I felt like you and I were never at a loss for ways to entertain ourselves.
Whether that be, going to a CD store or a comic book store, in my case, it's going to a punk rock show that was thrown by a friend, or, even you would come to the show sometimes because it was, just what we were doing on Friday. Like, oh, we're going to stop by Laser Tracks real quick and see a show and then talk to our friends, and we're going to dip out now. Yeah, I guess that's true. And I think it's really great that you were able to find those things in Arlington. Like, people overlook Arlington quite a bit. Like, I am one of its biggest champions. But like, I do feel even in the DFW Metroplex, which is called the Dallas-Fort Worth Arlington metropolitan area, because we are so big, we get overlooked. I mean, even though we have all this stuff like the Cowboys and Six Flags and the Rangers and all that, but like we have all this other stuff too. And you're kind of talking about there being culture. There's even more culture now. Like, there is a pretty vibrant music scene. There's a pretty vibrant, I don't know if there's a filmmaking scene, but I feel like there is kind of one bubbling up in Arlington. So like, even that kind of stuff that you would see in other cities like Dallas, Austin, LA, all these places, New York, that's kind of starting to bubble up here too. And it may not, like, I'm not to say that Arlington is going to be the next New York City or anything like that. It's ridiculous. But if you can somehow put your spin on it, a unique spin on it, Arlington could be a thing. And, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Every time I've gotten to come back in the last few years since I left, I'm always delighted by the changes that I'm seeing, especially downtown, just how cool it is down there now. And that was starting before I left. But it still brings me no end of pleasure to see, because, I feel like growing up in Arlington, you grow up a little bit with a chip on your shoulder, because you try to tell people where you're from, and they're like, "You mean where all those dead soldiers are buried?" And,
you're like, no.
I mean, there are probably some, but no.
Yeah.
And having to explain, no, we're, the Oreo cream between Dallas and Fort Worth.
We're the best part.
Exactly. Yeah. People will tear the other two apart to get to us.
Yeah, that's fair.
But so seeing the town sort of grow in ways that make it more notable is just a delight for me as a longtime Arlingtonite.
So we have a segment on the show, and I know you haven't been here in a while, so you may not be able to answer this, but it's called the Tournament of Toppings. We're trying to find the best pizza place in Arlington. Do you have a favorite pizza place in Arlington, or did you back in the day?
Yeah, old school.
Okay, fair. That's probably a good answer for everyone, and we get that quite a bit. It's my favorite place for sure. There's just something about, like, I don't know, man, the pizza's just so much different from all the other stuff that's out there. Like, and that's not to say the other pizza's bad or anything, because there are a list of pizza places I can give you right now that are great, but old school does something that those other ones don't. And maybe the bar and the patio have something to do with it. Maybe the fact that it's an old house, like there's some sort of charm there. But also it's just really good pizza.
Yeah, all of that, I would say. Yeah, it used to be a kind of a cool coffee house before it was a pizza place. So I've always, yep, it was a sandwich shop. But they had, I think, just kind of gone into business in like 2012, 2013. And honestly, that is still sort of the pizza high that I'm chasing.
Wow, high praise.
Yeah. There's some good pizza places in Iowa City, but nothing that my wife Becca and I love as much as we love old school. So
interesting.
On our return visit, old school, we were going to come visit as soon as it's safe to travel again.
Yeah, it'll be great. We'll have a whole thing. So what's next for Shaun Hamill writer? What are you working on?
Well,
specifics. No, I'm just kidding.
I signed a contract for a short story that's going to be in a really exciting anthology that'll be out around Halloween.
Awesome.
So that look out for that. It'll be alongside a lot of authors that I really admire. So it's kind of like very cool to get asked to do it.
It's like you're on a compilation of like all your favorite bands, and like you're like, well, I'm here too, baby.
How did I get here? Yeah. Yeah, I'm the William Hung in this situation.
No, you deserve to be there. Deserve to be there.
And I'm also working on a new novel. I passed the 100,000 word mark yesterday, so I'm closing in on finally finishing another, at least a first draft.
Sure.
So I'm very excited about that. And of course, it's only for me in the last third of writing a draft that I kind of start to figure out what the book is. So I'm getting very excited about it now because it's like, oh, here it is. This is the book.
Oh, I found it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100,000 words in, but yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, it takes what it takes. You don't get into writing novels because it's a time efficient activity.
I'm gonna knock this out by Thursday. Is that okay?
Yeah. It's not McDonald's. It's
Sure. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to hit you up? Talk about the book.
Well, I'm on Twitter. What is my Twitter handle? I think I'm just at Shaun.
It's at Shaun Hamill. Yes.
That's probably the easiest way.
He is very active.
Yes, I'm very active. You can't just slide into my DMs, but if you try to send me a DM, I at least can see that it's been sent. And, if you're not a creep, I'll almost always answer.
If you're not a creep or a butthole, like you'll probably get through.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been very lucky so far. I don't think I'm near famous enough to get the buttholes yet. Everybody who's reached out to me has been really sweet. I also have a website, ShaunHamill.com, which I think has a couple of different links you can follow if you don't like to use Twitter or you just want to email me or whatever. But Twitter is definitely where I spend most of my time hanging out, on the internet. And I would love to hear from anybody who's read the book. Hopefully people who liked it. If you read it and hated it, you can keep that to yourself.
You don't need to let anyone know. It's okay if you didn't like it. You don't got to tell everyone. Like if I didn't like, a Dave Grohl's next Foo Fighters album, I don't necessarily know that I'd tell him. He doesn't need to know that for me.
You can tell everybody else. Just don't hit me up specifically.
Specifically, don't ask him.
Yeah,
all right, so
rate
Dave
it
Grohl,
on Amazon, rate it on Goodreads, whatever. just don't message me to tell me how much you hate me.
Yeah, don't personally do that. That's it's kind of it's a bad move. It makes it is mean. Let's just call it what it is. It is mean. Don't be mean. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been trying to set this up forever, and I don't know why we haven't. We do the other podcast, and we're like, well, we're done talking now.
I'm very hard to get.
You elusive is how I would describe. No, I'm just kidding. I talk to him every week. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully we'll have you back on when the next book gets published, and you can talk about that too.
I'd like that.
I am here with John from Dr. Jekyll's. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Nice seeing you today.
Hey, nice. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course.
Yes. So, if people don't know, what's some of the history of Dr. Jekyll's? I know it started as a homebrew place, and then it kind of branched out into kind of a tap house, I guess. Mm-hmm. But then that's kind of where we are now. And then you guys are also trying to include music, which we'll get to later. But what's the story behind Dr. Jekyll's?
So, basically how you've put it. So I started coming to Dr. Jekyll's a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And from what I knew, it had a little bit of homebrew supplies in the back,
right,
and then had taps on the wall.
Right.
And so it really just dipped into that community so people could come buy supplies and then also taste the bigger craft beers out there.
Right.
But yeah, certainly started off as just homebrew. Mm-hmm. And then I think maybe 2015 or 16 added taps. Like I had not come at that point.
Right.
And so from there, with transfer and ownership, the homebrew side kind of fizzled out and dissolved. And so we don't do homebrew anymore. Now it's just a tap room. Mm-hmm. We had music. We had some basic, unofficial residencies on Thursdays.
Right.
And with goodness gracias. And so a lot of that stuff kind of started fading away with just ownership and management,
right,
not necessarily changing, but just dwindling a little bit. Mm-hmm. But then, since I started on in 2019, in the beginning of the year, trying to help out, trying to just get a feel for the business, starting up open mic again, because that had also gone away, and also kind of catering to a different crowd, but trying to make it more beer and... So like it used to be, but in a different way.
Right.
And so like you mentioned, like we're trying to bring a lot more music back in.
Yep.
I have more experience in that music community, and so I want that to be shared here.
Right.
But then we also want to bring back homebrew supply.
Right.
Like we want to bring those elements. We want to bring a kitchen in. And so we kind of want to bring it back to what Jekyll's was, because we still have people coming in for homebrew supplies.
Right.
We kind of want to be that one-stop craft beer place where you have entertainment, beer, and beer supplies.
Very nice.
So that's kind of where we're at now. But
I have heard that the homebrewing has obviously spiked during the Corona pandemic because obviously people are at home.
Yep.
They got more stuff to do, so you got more people gardening. You got more people actually now making their own beer. So I do like the fact that you guys are bringing it back. Also, it's on the sign still that says homebrews. So
right, yeah. So we had to actually take down a sign that said we served coffee and food because also when things started opening back up or doing curbside, people were asking if we had food.
Right.
So we kind of had to pull that down fast. And it was covering up a big homebrew sign. And so at least 4 or 5 times a week we had more people coming in to get homebrew supplies, and we have very, very bare minimum supplies that was just left over.
Right.
And so we're trying to find someone like that already owns a homebrew shop to have like a satellite or sister location to sublease so we can at least sell some starter kits, because homebrew, it's almost like records, people think like homebrewing's back or like, it went away, but if you just don't provide those supplies, you're not going to see those customers, you're not going to see those homebrewers.
Right.
And so like we fully believe it's either on the rise or at least just those people are still homebrewing and want to keep getting into it. Like records never went away.
True.
I mean, I think Britney Spears was probably on a vinyl record at one point.
But you could get Oops, I Did It Again somewhere on some kind of vinyl.
I think so. Yeah. I own a second edition.
Oh, okay.
It's not worth jack, but I'm still looking. But so I mean, we just want to keep providing to that. So not really touching or not really trying to get a quick market from anyone like during quarantine, but that definitely is probably getting a lot more people introduced. Because I mean, even if you have someone who tried making their own beer and it turned out horribly, they may still have interest. I think with more guidance, though, than just reading the beer kit labels.
Right.
They can be deceiving sometimes.
Now, I could be wrong, because I do have some friends that homebrew. I don't believe there's a homebrew place in Arlington. Now, technically, obviously, Dr. Jekyll's, we are in Pantego, which is inside Arlington.
Right.
But if my memory is correct, I don't believe there is a homebrew place in Arlington.
Not that I'm aware of either.
Right.
And so everything else would be like Keller or in the Metroplex, but not just in Arlington. So same as far as my knowledge goes. And so that would be nice. So along with being a craft beer bar that has its, separate niche, to also provide brewing supplies, because there's quite a few people in Pantego and Arlington that are home brewers, and that are really trying to expand their craft.
Right. I mean, we had New Maine. They did amazing. Division is still doing great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those homebrew guys obviously did something well.
Yeah.
And all the beers that people love now, at some point, was made in probably somebody's garage or backyard.
Absolutely, yeah. You got the Bill Gates story.
Yeah.
For most, some people just buy a brewery. But for most, you start home brewing. In fact, I think Division and New Maine got a lot of their roots here, buying supplies. And back in the day, there's new breweries still popping up, even just like in spite of the virus rather than despite the virus. So, I mean, people are still pursuing their dreams and realizing like, hey, if I'm onto something, that it could be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's trying to really go for fame and glory and millions of dollars. I think craft brewers just want other people to enjoy craft beer. And if they've got something that's a solid, beer, then why not? And that's where Texas is really booming right now. I mean, I think before this happened, there's at least 3 new craft breweries a month. Yeah. At least the average.
Right.
So that was just a fact that sounds small, but I mean, per month, that's just wild. So.
Right. And you have to imagine the size of our Metroplex, which I have seen a fun map where our Metroplex is bigger than most states, like population-wise and everything. So just imagine how many more breweries there are just inside that also. So that's what's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, it sounds crazy to say, I'm just throwing out random numbers. But it's like, oh, there's, 500 breweries in like DFW.
Yeah.
And then hearing there's, 500 breweries in Ohio. Like, it sounds more reasonable to hear that there's 500 in a state rather than like a small, like not small, but a metroplex, just like one area.
Right.
Because they're certainly spread out throughout Texas also.
Exactly.
So, that's cool. I mean, it's one of those where the bubble's kind of already popped for breweries, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned from successful breweries as well as ones that haven't made it.
Right.
And regardless of the circumstances, I think a lot of people are just taking those into account and still pushing forward.
Right.
And honestly, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, by no means do we want to slow down or just whittle it down to where there's only 5 breweries in Texas or, limited breweries in the United States.
Exactly.
Like, we don't really want to corner that market. We want to expand and
I think
keep everyone going.
Because I think everyone needs... Almost like everybody likes to have a local bar or a place to go to drink and hang out and just, sometimes unwind at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think a brewery or a tap house is definitely something that people need to be, I think we need more of.
It does. I mean, there's, so similar to like the bar scene, people find their atmosphere here versus finding their atmosphere at Cool Keg. And so, and there's an On Tap, I think, in Arlington.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, there's those 3 different styles of beer bars where you can go. And, I mean, I think even more so in a brewery, people find a sense of identity and one that really resonates with, like, just their attitude towards life. Because I think beer kind of strips that down to a nice essence of you have such a stark contrast between a brewery like Division versus New Maine, and then New Maine versus Legal Draft. I mean, just in our immediate area, there's people who just find really the one that they want to back. I mean, it almost becomes like a sports team, but hopefully in a very healthy way.
Right.
I've had people be competitive about it, but really it's fun to like root for your home brewery and just want the best beer and, like, especially one that agrees with your palate.
Right.
Because everyone's different, and so why not have a brewery for you?
Thank you.
And all the millions.
It's funny you say it because I have friends that I'm a fan of all breweries, but I'm a fan. I'm the bigger fan of Division.
Yeah.
But I like Legal a lot also because Legal will try different things with their beers, especially during the COVID. They've been like almost every Friday they've been putting out something different.
Yeah.
I also love their establishment and then where they are in the Urban Union. So sometimes I'll send something out to my friends. They're like, hey, Legal Draft are doing this, and they're like, stop making legal fetch. It's not fetch.
It's not don't make fetch a thing.
Yeah. I'm like, I still love Division, don't get me wrong, but I also like to go to other breweries and check them out too. So
well, and that's the thing too. I mean, there's a lot to be said about Legal Draft's beer versus Division's beer, and how they do things is so different. You're almost looking like, I'm going to talk like I've watched this or read it, but I mean, it's almost like Game of Thrones. Like, you're going to have your different kingdoms where it's like Division. You have IPAs, sours, and some stouts, but IPAs are heavy. Yeah. And they do those so well. And Legal Draft has just found a very good balance between all of their beers where, I mean, they are like for our area, and it's something to be proud of. It's like they are that next level of like the commercial beer where it's like, this is ready to go in a can in Target or Kroger or wherever, but it's like solid quality craft beer, especially with a new brewer. They have a brewer that's now wanting to do varieties and listen to the staff. I mean, Josh at Legal Draft is the rep, but he's done everything under the sun in the beer industry. Right. And so they're listening to him. At least from talking with Josh, it sounds like they get input from a lot of people. Right. And so like they're really going to diversify and at least try a lot of different styles than just having a traditional German beer lineup and not do anything different. Right. So like their ginned up charges beers, one of my favorite like barrel aged beers. Yeah. I mean, because it's a IPA with juniper berries brewed, like aged in a gin barrel, which normally it's not a barrel, but I mean it's phenomenal. Yeah. Like, I've had it. So like they're I forget what they call that series.
They're
something like a cask series, but I mean, you buy two cans and in like a cool cardboard box. Yeah. But I mean, like they're quality. I mean, so it's just they've definitely made a bigger shift in the last year or so. Whenever they got that new brewer. Yeah. And so, I mean, so kind of bringing it back to, you have two completely separate breweries. Yeah. That are quality, and I'm glad you're pushing for Legal Draft, because I mean it's different too. You know, people's version. You go to a place like Division, it's just a different attitude. It's almost like the dive bar of breweries. Exactly. You know,
you're going to go there to hang out and just shoot the shit with your friends. Wade will probably be there. He'll probably grab a beer with you and shoot the shit with you also. Yeah. As opposed to Legal, you might know the people that work there. Like I've met almost everybody there. Yeah. Everyone's been super nice. I love everybody there. You know, but a lot of times they're not just going to hang out and grab a beer with you. Right. They might swing by, talk to you, like, you guys having a good time, you guys enjoying everything, but they'll keep walking.
Just different establishment.
Right.
But
I always thought it was weird. It wasn't weird. I kind of felt a little bit of joy, but at the same time I was like, how the hell did they do this? We go to Galveston almost every year, and it was like one of the first years that Legal was open. We went to the Kroger and they had Legal there. I was like, how? Yeah. How does this Arlington brewery all the way down to Galveston? But they did an amazing job just getting their beer out as far Texas as they could.
And so despite like the lack of variety I felt they had, where they had like the solid core beers, right. I mean, they were ready to go from day one of brewer, canning, and marketing. Yep. And I mean, they just really like jumped the gun in a very positive way. Of like they were just way further ahead than anyone's expectations, at least from the general public. Now, if you're an investor, you're probably like, day one, we're going to be like the top brewery in Arlington, or in Texas. Yeah. I mean, like shooting, like they're distributing their cans everywhere. I mean, so it was an amazing feat for a brewery to do. Right. Like regardless of where you stand, to just be that ambitious and push forward like that. Right. And so I mean, it's cool. Right. Impressive.
So Dr. Jekyll has gone through multiple ownerships and different facets as to how this place was run. How do you guys see yourself moving forward in this new ownership? Because it seems like you're almost trying to take almost like a greatest hits of what they've done before and try to put it all together.
Exactly. So Josh Murillo, so we're partners, and that's basically why we wanted to buy Jekyll's. Right. This is not our money-making venture. This is something that we want to keep in the community, and we wanted to keep Dr. Jekyll's. For a few people, it does have a little bit of a negative, twinge when you hear the name. But of course, for most, though, this is the local watering hole. Yeah. Really low maintenance, low key, and when you come here, you're going to have a conversation. Right. And so that's what we want. I mean, we want to keep that essence. We still get people wanting us to be a sports bar, which we've played sports every now and then, and we don't oppose to it, but that's not really what we want to center our business around.
Right.
We want to center around conversation, community, really bring in the arts a lot more, and mainly just to showcase the talent that Arlington has. Because, I mean, we've talked about it in a previous podcast episode where, I mean, Arlington is very dense with talent, and, I mean, the more I'm following it, the bigger it gets, and the more confident the scene gets, too.
Oh, without a doubt.
And so bringing that in with obviously a good variety of beers, hopefully bringing back the homebrew side of it to where exactly we can really capture, I like that, the greatest hits of Dr. Jekyll's over the years. And I mean, with a little bit of a new facelift, we put a lot of work into like painting the floors, painting the walls, like redecorating just a tiny bit just to
give it a facelift almost.
Yeah, the facelift is to get it that little bit of different vibe that it needed. With the lighting, and then the back patio, so that no one's just going to go out there and injure themselves on just scrap. So we're really trying to show it off. Like, we want people who come in to be proud of Dr. Jekyll's and like what it has gone through, and so that way when they bring someone in, they're not going to say like, "What is this shitty bar that looks like it's from the '70s in like not a good way?" And so it still has the feel for all of our regulars, but then anyone coming in, it's going to be a nice, fresh, craft beer bar that still has a low-key vibe, given that it's half made of pallet wood. So we have fire insurance now.
Good.
Yeah.
So obviously we are still in a pandemic. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
So unfortunately, as of recording time, bars, which unfortunately this does count as a bar, has to be shut down for right now. But you guys are doing curbside service.
Yes.
How has the pandemic, I mean, obviously it's going to affect everyone differently. How has it really been affecting you guys? Because obviously, so you guys did do open mic comedy before and open mic music.
Yeah.
So how, obviously you guys want to bring that back later, but when it's safe for everybody.
Right.
But how has the pandemic helped or kind of hurt or helped you guys?
So, I mean, it's definitely done both, but we've been very optimistic.
Good.
So it was definitely a bummer, to say the least, when we had to stop doing open mics, open mic comedy shows. I had about 3 or 4 live shows set up for Jekyll's, really trying to push and dig into that consistent live music scene. So, because I would love for us to be known as a venue, as opposed to just occasional music. But I mean, again, like, we were very optimistic. We saw a silver lining on this very big dark cloud where we're like, okay, you know what? If we're going to shut down, we will use this time to do everything we wanted to do. And so it just took some money, and it took a lot of help from the community. So we had a lot of people helping us out and a lot of hours going into it. So we just used our time as wisely as we could. We just took it as an opportunity versus a major setback, because we still had a lot of support, a lot of people coming and doing curbside when they could, people buying gift certificates that I hope they come back and redeem. But, it was just really more of like a goodwill, people trying to support local. That was a really big push when everything got shut down, and that's what I'm all about. I love local. I will go to bigger chains sometimes, but normally it's McDonald's at like 2 a.m. And so, my money does go there sometimes. But, I mean, so for example, the week of terror, when word was getting out that's like, hey, there's cases in the U.S., things may shut down. Like, it was all up in the air. We had the last pint night for New Maine, so it's almost like a going away party. As the numbers were decreasing for recommended maximum occupancy. And so it was kind of just that dark cloud coming over, and, it got really calm and scary. The sky was getting orange, like a tornado was coming. And I had a live show set up for that week for a band to release some songs from their EP. And then I had another show too. Like, so day after day was, okay, maybe we can't do it. The next day was like, hey, we can't do it this day, but maybe the next day. Okay, or like pushing it up. Okay, well, we can't have anyone in the bar. Like, maybe we can have you come in and do a live stream to where it's like, you know what? We can't do anything. It's like, so that hurt. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like I'd mentioned before, we've just been taking the punches and just trying to get better at fighting.
Yeah, play rope-a-dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rope-a-dope?
Rope-a-dope. Muhammad Ali used to do it.
Oh.
Yeah, so he would absorb.
Educate me, yeah.
Yeah, he would take the punches.
Yeah.
And then, like,
They'd get
wait
tired.
for the guy to tire out. And then
Yeah. So we're waiting for COVID to get tired.
Yeah.
We are, man. It doesn't seem like it is.
No.
We maybe have the worst fighting strategy ever for fighting a virus, but punching it is.
Definitely not working out.
Nope. We're swinging wildly into the air. Oh man. But yeah.
So you mentioned you've been on the podcast before with Frio Trio.
Yes.
How is Frio Trio doing? Obviously, you guys can't perform really, other
Right.
than if you want to do some streaming. But
Yeah.
how's the band?
Good. So we've actually, we've taken this time. We've worked on more songs.
Good.
Especially with what's going on, some bands are pumping out an album a week, and others, like for us, it's just been harder to meet up.
Right.
I've been spending most hours at my job at the Runner,
Okay.
or at Jekyll's, and so, I'm getting paid to work at the Runner,
Yeah.
like 20, 30 hours a week, and then I'm at Jekyll's like 8 hours a day, also not getting paid, and so it's a tough balance for our band, but at the same time, we've kind of dialed back, realized, hey, if we're not going to be able to do shows, let's really hone in on 3 songs,
Yeah.
get them recorded, just basically, again, make use of the time we have and the lack of opportunities, but also the opportunity to record.
Good.
So fortunately, we probably won't be learning and embellishing on songs while we're playing live,
Right.
like some bands do. But already have those hashed out and ready to release and just get our music out there and see where it goes. We're just happy to be writing,
Yeah.
and to be playing, just even practicing and stuff like that.
Right.
So for a lot of people, it's mainly like a big outlet for us, creatively, and so it's just a fun project.
Good.
Yeah.
So, do we see Dr. Jekyll merchandise coming? Like hats, shirts?
Shirts.
Oh, we got shirts already.
Oh yeah.
Oh, very
so
nice.
we are actually doing another reorder.
Okay.
We have XL and double XL left.
Okay.
We sold out before we opened most of them.
Very nice.
And then through opening day and then a day after, we sold most of the rest of
Okay.
like the mediums, large, etc., and smalls. But so the shirts are a big hit. Maybe hats, maybe patches.
Koozies.
Again, stuff like some smaller stuff.
Right.
Like we don't want to just vomit our brand into the bar,
Yeah.
but we do want our brand out there, and that was one of the big things. Like if you came in before, you would have never known sitting in the bar where you were.
Right.
If you just walked in, not seeing a sign. So like there was nothing inside that said Dr. Jekyll's,
Oh yeah.
anything like that. So I do want to change that a little bit, just so that way our name sticks.
Right.
But so we have shirts, pins, and growlers that have our logo on them.
Mm-hmm.
And the first band I was with, Monoculture, Nick Leibold is a graphic designer and
Oh, cool.
a phenomenal drummer.
Right.
And so he did our artwork, which was actually for open mic
Oh, super cool.
in the beginning of 2019.
Yeah.
And we ended up just stripping it down and making it our logo, minus the QR code.
Right.
Making it our logo.
That's
Because I really like the different play on the duality of man, but in like
Jekyll
the card
thing,
style, like you can flip it over and it's, upright.
Yeah.
So I'm in love with it, so I want to put that on as many things as possible.
Yeah.
And like I love, the merchandise in like more of like the music scene versus the merchandise that you go and you get at like Fuddruckers or something.
Yeah.
And so I do like patches and pins and small stuff, but that still has some identity there. So you can throw some pins on your battle vest or some patches.
Yeah.
So patches may come. So our names and logos on some stuff.
Very nice.
And you're able to do curbside.
Yeah. So if people want to order curbside, where can they go?
To like the physical address.
Well,
Or-
where they can order it online and then they can pick it up, or they have to come here and pick it up.
So you'd have to come
Okay.
to our bar.
What's the physical address?
So 2420 West Park Row Drive.
There we go.
We are across from Aldi's,
Yep.
behind El Chico's,
Yep.
next to the scuba shop,
Yep.
and then a stone's throw from the snow cone place that
Right.
has a picket fence. So
Yep.
hopefully you know at least one of those.
Bowen and Park Row.
Park Row.
basically.
Yep. Yeah. So just pull up and honk a couple times loud. I may be watering the plants out back.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's not. No, they need water and treatment.
Obviously.
Yeah.
A little love.
A little
They're
bit.
not going to grow on their own.
No. But I kind of need to let them spread their wings and fly. So, I let them get thirsty a couple times. It's so cruel.
I have rose bushes in the back. I don't do anything, but they keep growing. I don't know what's happening.
Rose bushes are weeds.
Yes.
So is bamboo.
But they're beautiful.
And
so
so
I
is
don't
mint.
mess with bamboo.
And so is mint. Oh, bamboo's... That will never... Bamboo's the devil.
Yeah. I almost bought a house and I was like, no, there's way too much bamboo.
Oh. Mm-hmm. No.
I'd have
never.
scorched the entire place.
Oh, that won't even do it.
Exactly.
It will still... Oh, yeah. I've spent 2 summers getting rid of bamboo on like a half-acre plot, and it was the worst thing in my entire life.
I can imagine.
It's scary. It kind of like haunts you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see bamboo now. I'm like, nope.
No, just some tall grass, and I get like PTSD. And I'm just like, where's my pickaxe? So yeah, no. People recommend bamboo for small pots or for like out back for like a barrier, and I tell them kindly to fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have seen that I forget which country it is, but they switched to bamboo water bottles, and it's instead of plastic, and it's worked out very well.
See, bamboo as a resource is great.
Yes.
If you want a bamboo farm, knock yourself out.
Go ahead.
See, if you can... It's like... of course, I forget. Sisyphus, pushing the rock up the hill in hell.
Right.
It falls back down. If you can treat bamboo like Sisyphus, if you can let it grow and then just chop it down and let it keep growing, but we're using it.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the sustainable Sisyphus of this earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, yeah, bamboo products are phenomenal.
Right.
Maybe we'll have bamboo pint glasses. I don't know.
Maybe.
That would be kind of cool.
That would, growlers, you never know.
Those big bamboo shoots, we'll just cut them off into like pint size.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'll still have like shit in it, but it's, it's green.
You can wash it, waller it out. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a little swirl in water.
It's all from the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they want to follow Dr. Jekyll on social media, how do they do so?
So we're on Instagram,
Yes.
Dr. Jekyll's Beer Lab.
There we go.
And Facebook, same thing, Dr. Jekyll's Beer Lab.
Yeah.
Look out for the cool line drawing of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde,
Yeah.
and that's the logo. But we're pretty active on social media,
Yeah.
so engage with us, talk some shit. We're a lot of fun. We're definitely updating social media every day.
Yes, that's why I've noticed the patio getting bigger and better, and
Yes,
it's beautiful.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. So when we reopen or allowed to, and we're allowed to reopen and stay reopened, we'll probably have a grand reopening. So we had that soft reopening of just a lot of people took it as a grand reopening, which made it an amazing Friday.
Yeah.
But we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Oh, cool.
Some people parachuting down in, some strippers. Like, it's going to be an event,
I look forward to this.
Yeah, one that will definitely not, characterize the bar.
Right.
So when you come back the next day, it's going to be just a nice old boring conversation bar.
Now, will we have the clowns in the ceiling like we spoke about before, or no?
So we removed those.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because we thought this was going to come earlier. So they've been up there for 2 months already.
no.
Yeah, so they've been up for 2 months.
It doesn't smell bad in here, so it's great.
No, it took a lot of bleach. Yeah.
Bleach, incense.
Bleach, we retiled the entire thing, as you can tell. It
Yeah,
looks a
they
little
do
bit
look-
newer tiles. Yeah, no, we had quite a few. It was going to be quite the event.
So many clowns.
Yeah. Yeah, we got grants from the government, so...
For clowns?
Well, we wrote it off differently.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. We just stuffed them in kegs and said beer, Oh, God.
That's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan.
And anytime you guys want to come by Dr. Jekyll's, he's normally here. If not, just, honk twice and you'll get beer one way or another.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that was our show. Thank you so much to our two guests this week. Shaun Hamill, thank you so much. What a treat having him on. Yes, he's an Arlington native. Yes, he's a friend. But he is also a seriously accomplished novelist, and his book is fantastic. And especially now during COVID, A, you want to support, local people that came from where you came from. B, you want to support bookstores. And C, you need something to do. So, buy the book, please. It's fantastic. You won't regret it.
I listened to it and I loved it. So
Listened to it multiple times, haven't you?
yeah.
I've read it multiple times.
It was great. And also to Dr. Jekyll's Beer Lab, when things get up and running, check that place out.
Yeah. Obviously, they're going to have all the clowns on the ceiling. So
Yeah, clowns.
Watch out for those clowns.
And beer.
yeah,
So, you know what? Thank you very much. And thank you for listening.
make sure to go out and eat local, drink local, and
Go rediscover your city.
Tag us and send those pictures over to us on Facebook, Arlington Citizen Media, Twitter, ATX Citizen Media. Tag us on Instagram, Arlington Citizen Media, and send those pictures the old-fashioned way. Email arlingtoncitizenmedia@gmail.com. Also go to our website, www.arlingtoncitizenmedia.com. Don't forget to subscribe and give those 5-star reviews of The Downtown at Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and also hit us on SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and YouTube.
I don't think anyone knew that. You guys are the only people that I'd probably ever told that story to. And now the world. Welcome to the Downtown.